I was born to two brave Namibians some 44 years ago in a refugee camp in Lubango, Angola. The camp was called Greenwell Education, and with hindsight became my first inkling at the profound foresight of our forefathers. Even then, unknown to my young mind, our founding elders knew running a country would require diverse skills that needed training in preparation for the victory they knew was inevitable. Even then, over half a century ago, our forefathers recognized the immeasurable value of a united, inclusive society where every person used their gifts and trained skills to lift everyone up. This was my earliest experience of the world, and the irony is not lost on me that I discovered this vision of governance in a refugee camp. Although as a child, I had no other circumstance to benchmark against my lived experience, I had parents and a community of freedom fighters who kept reminding us all that there was a home that was very different from the tents that dotted my horizon. The trenches built to repel attacks, the lumpy rice and saltless beans that was a staple of nutrition, and the endless rumbling of military planes that chased us into bunkers built underneath the tents. There was a place they called home, and we were in this camp because they all wanted the rights of a homeowner for self-determination and the freedom to call this far-off land that I had never seen home. In the darkest nights and the smoke-filled days, this promise of what was home meant was the North Star in that camp called education. Long before I could call Namibia anything else, a country, a nation, a people, it was a promise called home. It was this promise that so much was paid for in blood, in trauma, in denial, in sacrifice, and so much more than words can describe. The scars of the struggle are proof of that time when all we had was a promise of all the rewards of having a place to call home. Indeed, those of us that came back from exile were the lucky ones, because we got to see that indeed it is true, we were not lied to. There is a place called home, and it is this free Namibia. We came back home by land, sea, and air, sure of one thing. We were no longer indebted to a history of injustice and inequality. We have paid the price so the ones to come would not have to or ever need to. They would claim their safe place in this their home called Namibia. This Namibia is worthy of the price already paid. Our present would be dishonoring our past if our future cannot count on the returns on the capital our forefathers invested in this nation. Those rewards, I call them promises, in honor of my youth and time in exile, are valid, credible, claimable, and indeed the right of every Namibian. The promise of an inclusive and equitable Namibia, where we recognize that in our diversity is our strength. There is no red line of any kind, nor divisions fostered by narrow agendas that do not serve the greater good. A truly inclusive Namibia that recognizes the value of each and every one of us as valuable humans who can come together and fulfill the promise of the forefathers to build the most welcoming and safe home of all, a thriving nation called Namibia. The promise of a Namibia, every person has a safe, secure roof over their heads, where they can claim their space with dignity, a place where they can live today, loud, proud, and free. The promise of a poverty-free Namibia, because poverty is an expensive venture for any nation that has fought as long and as hard as we have to be where we are today. The cost of poverty is much higher in Namibia, where more than half the population are poor, thereby putting extreme strain on resources, increasing crime, lowering the quality of lives, and most of all reducing the size of the domestic market. The promise of a just Namibia, where justice and the rule of law applies to every person without fear or favor. A justice system that gives second chances to the worthy and upholds the dignity of the guilty. The promise of a Namibia that invests in her future, the vibrant, promising, gifted young people who will be the leaders of our tomorrow. These are the promises I believed in with so many others like me who were born and raised in exile. These are the promises that inspired the ones who fought within, making sure we had something we could all build on. Under one roof, one banner, boldly and courageously named Namibia. These are the promises I want to pass on to our children, but not as a conditional possibility, but rather a certain outcome that can be lived in the present and which will only get better every step into the future. It is time to show ourselves that we are the promise manifest today. The potential to fulfill each of these promises lives inside each of us. We just need to be reminded of this power. Through our infrastructure, education, social services, wealth distribution, and more. I am a living testimony of that truth. Nothing is impossible. From a refugee camp to being a pioneer in my chosen field of study of chartered accountancy, building multiple businesses and raising 3 beautiful children in this home that I was promised. Yet, this trajectory places a heavy burden on me. To fix the broken furniture so every person can be and feel comfortably. Expand the kitchen so everyone can eat, rebuild, replace, repair, so we can all feel re-inspired to make new promises for the ones to come, but not until the old promises are fulfilled for our children. That is why I'm running for the president of the government of Namibia. I am Ally Angula, and I'm looking for your support as I roll up my sleeves to work and fight for the economic future of Namibia, because it is time to live the promise. The time is now. Join the conversation on Twitter or watch me as I unfold my plans on YouTube and Facebook. Watch and catch me on Instagram. The handles are Ally Angula 2024. Thank you very much.